I'm Gary, and this is Coasting with Culture, which is all about combining theme park visits and riding roller coasters with various cultural experiences around the world. With the main Stumbles of Fun event behind us, a large contingent of buzz bars would head into Iowa to visit one of the newest theme parks in the United States. And not only did we get to ride a pair of coasters that had previously operated on two very different parts of the world, but we also got a special behind-the-scenes tour for one of those coasters and the park's surprise dark ride. It was a pretty long drive from Kansas City to Waterloo, Iowa, driving over rolling hills and passing several farms along the way. Eventually, there was a theme park rising out of an Iowa field as we approached our destination for the day, Lost Island. A theme park opened the previous year by the owners of a successful nearby water park. One thing that really stands out about this park is that its theme is an original creation with a unique story made specifically for it. From the scenery around the park to the characters you meet with, everything came from the imagination of the family who created it. There's also a number of interactive features, from propellers you can spin by pedaling, tubes you can use to play the one simple song you know a smidge off key, and a really neat fountain that has a special feature when all the sensors are triggered at the same time. One of the more fascinating aspects of the park is the way that it features two large coasters that had previously operated on another continent, as Matugani was previously Cannonen at Liseberg in Sweden, and Nopuko Air Coaster had once run in South Africa as Cobra at Ratanga Junction. To give this visit a funny twist, since I had ridden Cannonen while on the 2014 Theme Park Review Scandinavia tour, and I made a visit to Ratanga Junction a couple months before the park closed and took a couple laps on Cobra, there was only one new coaster for me to ride in the park, a Wacky Worm. While several of the buzz bars arrived a bit ahead of us, we eventually caught up with some of them for our first ride on the day, and one that proved to be the biggest surprise of the park, Volcanu. Interactive dark rides are by no means a new kind of experience, but what sets this one apart from those seen at other smaller parks is the level of detail and quality given to this ride, as in many respects, it's on par with some of the better theme parks in the world. Even the queue and the pre-show that gives a background story were on a higher level than most smaller theme parks. It had several of us in awe, and we'd have a chance to enhance our experience with it later. The weather was looking a bit scary, as a storm was expected to roll in, so we snuck over to get at least one coaster before it hit with a ride on their Wacky Worm style coaster, Loco Lolo, which was already being ridden by a few other buzz bars.
So, got the Wacky Worm. Gonna have to hold off for some of the other bigger coasters because
it's slightly,
the wind is a-blowing.
And as the rides closed for the passing storm, we joined several others who were taking a lunch break in the Whalebone Grill, which offered a pretty good pulled pork barbecue mac and cheese, and Erica bought a sampler pack of delicious mini artisan cupcakes, which combined a variety of flavors in each one. When the storm was beginning to blow over, we went over for another ride on Volcanu since it was indoors, and yours truly redeemed himself for his loss at Frontier City a few days earlier, celebrating with the citizens of Lost Island. From there, several of us enjoyed a couple rides on Matugani, an intimate accelerator coaster that is among the smallest of the model, but really packs a punch with its quick launch and smaller elements that offer some great quick pops of air and fun hang time moments. I often told folks that this felt like Intimate's version of a Eurofighter, and the rides on this day reaffirmed that thought, and also made me really glad to see it get a new lease on life, rather than simply being scrapped, even if they had to delay its opening by a year, rather than having it ready for the park's debut.
What did you just say?
Ain't nothing but a big snake.
Big snake.
We then went over to Yuta Falls, their log flume with a bit more of a tropical theme as you prepare to board. This ride, like Matugani, did not open with the park, but that was due to a fire that had caused some severe damage. Luckily though, they were able to make the needed repairs so that could help add a bit more to do in this corner of the park, although they had purposefully designed the park for future expansions.
It is time to reunite with a ride that I once experienced in the lands of Africa. I want to ride that from Cape Town to be exact.
This terrible thing?
Well, here's the tragedy of this, because this actually was one of the smoother SLCs the first time that I ever rode it. and now to hear that it's kind of gone downhill makes me a little sad. I'm hoping that maybe some folks have exaggerated this smidge.
And after riding it, I think it's safe to say,
I gotta be honest, it's a shame that this thing seems to have gotten a bit rough, because that spot right there, there's a big jolt to it, and then there's some jolts that happen in other parts of the ride that have certainly made it a little bit rougher than it used to be in the past.
the reactions of the group were a little bit more mixed.
One of the better ones I've done.
That ain't it.
That was my first SLC, and I'm gonna say this: every B&M invert, I take back what I've said about them.
Much better the second time.
Close to Nopuko, though, is Skyborne, an SNS tower that gave another excellent example of the detailed theming the park has given several attractions. As you walk through this library and archive, on your way to the pre-show room that again felt like it was on par with several highly rated theme parks. For much of the remaining time the park was open, there were those of us who went for multiple laps on Matugani, and while this in itself would have been a great cap to the day, there was a special arrangement made with the park for our group as we were getting a behind-the-scenes tour of their awesome dark ride Volcanu. Starting with a walk through one of the employee hallways into the queue area, and taking on a side journey into a side room for a look at extra parts and ride signage. They also use it to store parts for other rides that don't have their own maintenance areas. We then went back into the queue to make our way over to the loading station, which gave us a chance to nerd out on the control panel before we made the leap of faith onto the ride path to begin our walk around seeing the various showrooms of this awesome ride. We also got taken on a side journey into the maintenance bay where they work on the ride vehicles for a look at the main computer that controls the ride hardware, animatronics, and projections. Going further into the ride path also gave us a chance to see some of the larger animatronics and to see the hardware that makes it work. As we came toward the end of the ride loop, we found the vehicles parked for the night, and it was fascinating to see the way they recharged them was by plugging them into a nearby wall outlet. While our look at Volcanu was done, the Backstage tour continued with the former Swedish coaster, which now calls Iowa its home. Our look at Matugani began with a visit to the lower level, where the hydraulic motor that sends the train into that first top hat is kept, and where it attaches to the cable that pulls the train. We then made our way through the queue to get to the station. This became a coaster nerd's dream as we were granted access to the control booth and the ability to get some very artistic shots of the ride that wouldn't be possible when the park is open for the day. We were also led to the maintenance bay where the second train was being stored at the time, and gave us even more chances for the kinds of shots and views that wouldn't be enjoyed during a regular park day. And as we went down the hallway where the main computer was located, that brought our Backstage tour to an end.
Tell you what, this is a really nice park, and we got a really cool tour here, and we'd gladly come back and visit it again, and I think you all should as well.
With this effectively being the end of the Stumble weekend, this became the point where many of us wished each other a safe journey home, and where Marcus and I had a rather interesting way of saying bye. It wasn't long before this became one of the biggest strings of memes in the BuzzBars Discord, several of which were made when 10 of us drove over to the nearby Isle Casino for a visit to Brews Brothers, and to enjoy one last meal together before most everyone headed home. I'm certainly glad to have been part of the crew who came over to Iowa for experiencing what proved to be one of the nicest parts of the country, and is certainly one that I hope succeeds and continues to grow. And while that weekend was over for most of the BuzzBars, there were a few of us who would make one last stop at Iowa's largest amusement park before beginning to make our way back home.
Better be the end of your video.
Thank you for watching this video from Coasting with Culture. If you enjoyed it, please give it a thumbs up and click on the subscribe button to see future videos here on YouTube, like these ones which you may enjoy as well. Additional content can be found at coastingwithculture.com, and you can also follow Coasting with Culture on various social media channels at CoastWCulture for announcements, previews, and updates. Thanks again for watching, and until next time, take care and safe travels.